my parents got married, they were both serving banning orders. I think we took for granted how difficult the transition would be, not only for children, but also for the adults in that space. Having to realize that you don't fit in, but you are yourself. And then you begin to realize that the world itself is not perfect. And so you confront the world and then you challenge the world.
Good evening and welcome to Visionaries Lounge, where we take a closer look at the journey of successful South Africans. Isn't it interesting how sometimes life's setbacks can carry the seeds of greatness? My guest this evening is a Wits Honours graduate in Dramatic Arts and Development Sociology. She's a playwright and the founder of South Africa's very first spelling bee. But did you know that when she was a child, she thought she wasn't smart enough because she was dyslexic? Help me welcome Ntsako Mkhabela. A very good evening to you and welcome.
Thank you.
Now, I know you're dreading that question that everybody asks, who is Ntsako? So let's not take it from there and rather ask you about your upbringing. Where did you grow up?
I'm Joburg born and bred. I lived in Soweto. I was born in Soweto in Mulatsane, and then lived in Midlands, in Shawela. So I'm a Soweto girl. But I've spent most of my life in the east of Johannesburg.
Sounds very eclectic. Who did you grow up with? Mom, dad, brothers or sisters?
I have my parents together, and my parents are just that, if you had to imagine people that just remind you of love. So I grew up in a family that was very loving, very free, very open to opinions, to ideas, to supporting each other. And I have a sister who's in France right now, so I miss dearly. But my sister and I are like twin flames. And we had a brother called Linda Gotle, and the three of us just, I think when God made one, he made the other two.
That sounds so beautiful. Would you say it was privileged, it was comfortable?
Comfortable, if you're talking about how we're able to come around each other and have a really big family too, because we've got my grandparents who was part of raising me as well. We had cousins who were like sisters, so although my parents only had 3 children, our house was always brimming. I remember once my mother had her first car was a Golf, a small Golf my mom bought because she was tired of waiting for my father to pick her up at things. So, and then one time we were going to Eastgate. And we did a head count, and there were 12 children in the car.
No way.
Seriously. So
in a Golf?
Yeah, we had that house where everyone was packets, sit on top of, sit on the floor, and let's all be together. When my parents got married, they were both serving banning orders in the 80s. So they weren't even allowed to be together, and they were making it work. And seeing them gradually build a family and build a home, that didn't always, my mom said, it may not always get you what you want, but you have what you need. And it's helped us focus our needs and our wants and understanding what we get from each other.
It sounds like such a happy and warm childhood. But talk to us now about the dark times that you experienced when it comes to dyslexia. How did that feature in, and what sort of contradiction did that bring about as a young child?
I've always been awkward. I'm an awkward adult. I was an awkward child. Yeah. I think at some point I was too long, my legs were too long, my hands were too long, and you at home you feel so secure. And then when in around 93, 94, when black children were now going to mixed race schools, I think we took for granted how difficult the transition would be, not only for children, but also for the adults in that space. And so you find teachers who, you've been to township school and suddenly you're in the classroom and you're not as fluent as they want you to be in the language, or you're not aware of the social space, and they put you down. I remember going to these schools and feeling as though I think I'm going to die. You get so nervous, so tense about going to those spaces. And there was one teacher who said to my mother, your child cannot be educated. Your child should be put in some remedial program and taught a skill. And my mother you know, used words we cannot use
on national television.
Words she will deny now. But she took me out of the school and called me. It was during the October vacation. And she said to me, "You're no longer in that school."
She didn't explain to you why?
No, she said, "Those teachers are ridiculous. If they don't want to teach you, we'll find a way." I remember then going to a very small school that she took me to that was in Troyville. And it was weird for me having to walk into Troyville and a new space. And it was kind of like, you know, that marginal spaces in Joburg, and having to find my way there. And all these kids were in the remedial program. I was there for 3 months, but it was weird. And then there was one Christmas show that they did. And there's a song, and they said, well, everybody has to try something. So I thought, I don't know how, I'm not good at anything. You know, you spend a year with teachers who tell you how
you're not good enough.
You're not good at anything.
Exactly.
So I don't know how to do anything. And she said, do anything, sing a Christmas carol. And I remember singing, you know, just a small Christmas carol, and there was a note in the song, and I thought, it's going to suck terribly. And I did it. And then I thought,
wow.
Oh wow, okay.
I'm actually competent. I'm capable of doing something.
I could sing that song. That was, and I won the school competition, and I thought, oh, okay. So then there's what people tell you, and then there's what you do.
But how did you come to that realization that this is how I work? Because human beings, I think we have an inclination to fit in. How did you now then say, okay, this is how I'm wired?
Having to realize that you don't fit in, but you are yourself. And then you begin to realize that the world itself is not perfect. So for instance, you know, girls would say, why do you talk like that? Oh my gosh, you're not black. And then I go, no, actually, I know more about blackness and black history and black culture than you do. And so you confront the world, and then you challenge the world.
And the support that your parents gave you, for instance, your mom, how important was that?
I think everybody needs somebody in their corner. They don't have to bring you money, they don't have to bring you material things, but to have somebody who looks at you and think that there's something. So you'll hear sometimes I have a stutter, but that came out of being in those classrooms with teachers who don't want to give you a voice. And so we would read out loud, and my voice would cut completely. So finding parents who can find help for you when you need help. So I found this really great speech therapist, and all she did beyond speech therapy was just to sit with me and say, tell me what you think about the world. And having a child have to find their thoughts about themselves, about the world, and share that suddenly freed my air.
I have this preconception, and it's not based on any study or any theory. I grew up in Soweto myself, and it's just pure observation, so there are no tests and controls here. But I find that oftentimes as people of color, when you find a child who is dyslexic, we write them off as being stupid.
I think we don't deal with a lot of educational challenges in a way that is proactive. First, we wait for the problem to present itself in a really drastic way, and behavioral problems, and then someone will say, now you act. Beyond problems, say, with dyslexia and so on and so forth, we bore children. We bore them to a stupor. I think most of our children are not dumb. I think maybe some of them don't even have the difficulties that they present with. But if you go to a classroom that's 1, overcrowded, 2, whoever's instructing you is disinterested, 3, the actual syllabus is boring.
And in fact, that's where I want to go, because anything but boring has been your life's journey. I want to speak about the spelling bee when we come back. I want us to delve a little bit deeper into some of your works as a playwright, and all that and more we'll explore just after this. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thanks again for joining us. You're watching Visionaries Lounge. Our visionary this evening is Ntsako Mkhabela, and she rose above what many would see as an obstacle, dyslexia, to become a playwright and the founder of the first spelling bee here in South Africa. Now, we had spoken about the dyslexia just before the break. I'd like to delve a little bit deeper now into your part as a playwright and also the spelling bee. How did you get that inspiration to start working with words when, for years as a child, perhaps words were the enemy?
I think sometimes the things in life that challenge you the most lead you to where you should be. it's not an easy line, it's not a straight line. And sometimes the things you want to say no to, the things you push away, are the things you actually should draw closer to yourself. I remember the first time I decided to write, I was thinking about my mother and her experiences as a young woman. She had spent 18 months in solitary confinement during the 70s after the June 16 uprising. I wanted to find a way of expressing that because there was so much emotion around it, and I started to feel really tense, and that's how I feel just before I'm about to write, or if I need to write something, I feel tense and I feel awkward in my own skin, and there's an idea, there's a voice, and there's a need to communicate it, but I didn't know how, and so I just decided to take a piece of paper and just started writing.
How old were you at that point?
It must have been about 15 or so. And so I started writing, and when I did that, I realized that I was able to translate those feelings of anxiety or the pressures that you feel sometimes, or the sense that there's something in your head, there's a whole world in your head, and you're trying to share that with the world outside. And so being a playwright for me, being young, not born free, having parents who were part of the anti-apartheid struggle, there are a lot of things about those experiences that the world hasn't yet come to want to hear. And so the only way was to confront words and say, okay, in order to meet this need, I have to mount my dragon, mount the monster, and somehow have it kill me or have me dominate it.
So you go to varsity and you study and you enter this world of writing now. Talk to us about working as a playwright and the inspiration that led to the spelling bee.
No, first I went and I tried to be a lawyer.
Okay. Oh, tell us about that. Let's talk about that.
Because one must make sensible decisions. Who becomes a playwright in 2015?
Exactly.
What
you just thought, let me choose life.
What are you? Yeah, let me choose life.
What am I going to eat?
In my matric year, we had a tragic accident in my family where my little brother passed away. Your brain goes into logical mode.
Yes.
And so logical mode said, okay, I'm going to have to apply for something somewhere. I remember getting my letters from Rhodes and Wits accepting me on the day that my mom told us that he had passed away. And so I had these two letters, and I was going to go to Rhodes, and I thought, enough.
Practical thoughts
practical
now.
things,
Yes,
practical
let's
things.
deal.
I want to study law. And then halfway through law school, a lecturer said, if you're interested in changing the world, you're in the wrong place. And I thought, thanks.
That's my get out of jail card.
Thanks. I've been waiting for that cue.
Yes.
And then I said to my mom, I made the wrong choice. And my father says, you'll make a good lawyer. And I said, I don't doubt this, but I'm not a lawyer. And then I decided then to go to drama school. So I went from, studying on the West Campus as it is at Wits, with kids who actually get to class on time and dress conservatively, to just the freedom.
Hippies on the other side.
Yeah, hippies on the other side. And I thought, my people, where have you been?
Yes.
So just really writing and finding a voice and being confident in that voice, and being confident in the notion that I want to become a playwright. I need to become a playwright. I'm not doing this the same way an accountant does, where like this is a sure thing in life. It involves a lot of risk. It involves a lot of could-be's, would-be's. It may not work entirely.
You've done quite a lot in a short space of time. I want us to get to the B.
To tell us more about this brand new project is Ntsako Mkhabela. Ntsako, good morning to you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you.
First, why did your organization decide to start by creating a spelling bee?
Well, as you said, we work with high school students, matrics and grade 11s, and we found that it's very difficult to have a child understand cloud formation and write about it in geography class if their basic English and reading skills are not up to par. Something's wrong in South Africa. Our children are home by 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 at latest. Parents are only home at 6. And these children are bored. Then we wonder why they venture into drags.
No extramural
we don't do sports,
activities,
you don't do choir, you don't do debating.
Yeah.
All that stuff that we did. And it didn't cost a lot to be in the debate club, to be in the choir. It didn't cost a lot. So the spelling bee was born out of that frustration and saying, okay, well, what can I do? And so I thought, why don't I start really early?
Your third word is cottage.
Cottage. C-O-T-T-A-G-E. Cottage. A-U-C-T-I-O-U-G-E. Action.
And the kids we meet when I work with children who are ages 9 to 14, when you meet them when they're 9, they're like...
Are these kids from disadvantaged backgrounds?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
You get the kid from St. Stithians standing right next to the kid from Maragana. You can't tell which kid comes from where.
Wow.
But they're little cues.
Aldea, verveeld. Correct. Ronde 4.
The kid from affluence stands up straight, has their voice, is confident and self-assured. And the other children are rather meek and they don't want to ask questions, so you have to think for them and give them answers before they've asked you the question. There was one kid, this little podgy, red-faced Afrikaans boy who came to me, and he said to me, my mother bribes me to speak in front of my class. She buys me toys or chocolate every time I have to make a speech. Yeah. And he said, but I went on the stage, it was at the Soweto Theatre. I went on the stage, I went in front of South Africa, and I spelt, and I wasn't scared. And he said, Mommy, you don't have to bribe me anymore. Because to himself, he had gone from meek, shy child, and he had seen himself reflected through the eyes of people who said, you can do this.
I'm glad you brought your daughter into the equation here. She's here with us. Yes. We're going to hear from her just after this short break, and she's got a lot to say. I think the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but let's leave it there at least for now. Be sure to join us after this. Welcome back. It's a huge pleasure to have you with us. Our visionary for tonight, Ntsako Mkhabela, was talking to us about her efforts to make sure that South Africans are active citizens. And it seems like her daughter is also one of them, because she goes around making sure that there's no litter on the streets. And she's also Mommy's little mascot for the spelling bee that Ntsako founded. Good evening to you. And how are you?
Good. Thanks,
Good.
and you?
I'm very well, thank you. What's your name?
Luanze.
Luanze. And Luanze, how old are you?
7.
You're 7. And what grade are you in?
Grade 1.
I'm just looking at how gorgeous she is. I think you and I have just become redundant. She's now the star of the show. We are persona non grata over here. It's absolutely beautiful. But Ntsako, what's it like being such an active career woman and also a working mom?
I've actually made sure that I'm able to be her mom and be able to do the work that I need to do. So I don't separate my function as her mom and my work life. My work is my passions, and I find it difficult to separate the two. And so I think the Black community, we need to show our children the places where we work. If you work in a corporate environment, sometimes put them under the desk, even in a boardroom, so that when one day they get themselves into a boardroom, they're not surprised, they're not shocked, they know how these spaces work.
They've been groomed in that entrepreneurial mindset.
That's the only way we can actually make sure that the next generation of African people are able to go beyond what we've been able to do.
But talk to me about what works you're currently involved in at the moment. What are you working on?
I'm actually working on a production called Amandla with Jonas Gwangwa right now. He and his daughter Gitu Gwangwa are directing the production, and on that level I'm coming in as the production manager. My mother and I are trying to republish her book Open Earth and Black Roses. So looking at it again, and with the 40th anniversary of the June 16 uprising coming up next year, to kind of bring the book out again and tell the world again the story of that. And then I have my work with the Spelling Bee, and I'm starting a couple of businesses as well. So oh
my goodness, I think the question I should have asked you is, what are you not doing?
Yes.
Because you sound like you're doing quite a lot.
That's the problem. I said to my mother, when you said to me I should be a dancing lawyer, there was never any limit. I always feel like I'm just in the process of living my life, and in that I'm just discovering, exploring, and it's always fun.
What more is there to do?
I would like to write more. Working on a production for the Spelling Bee, an actually Spelling Bee play. So again, using things that come from different areas and bringing them together. And I think just I'm trying to work on having more courage to actually do the things that scare me.
You know, I actually would not have thought that there are things about which you have trepidation, because you've managed to conquer dyslexia, and you've done so much with your life. I would have thought that everything's just, you know, hanky-dory, walk in the park. But there are still some things where you think, oh, I don't know.
I have trepidations about many things. And even going into business. I'm an artist. And now I'm saying, okay, let me try business. I don't know, will it work, will it not? I don't have time to think about that. But so I just go out into the world, have courage.
Brenda, sitting next to you, your beautiful daughter.
Yes.
What would you want her to say of you one day?
That's a difficult one. But I wanted to think that I saw her, and that she was loved, and that she had a mom who was not afraid. But mostly I just wanted to be loved. I have a very simple philosophy with her. Don't drop her, don't break her, love her. You know, it's just, you know, and it's not a perfect mothering, but just simply to say, give her a voice and let her have a voice. That's all I want for her.
Having done so much, having been through so much, what has life taught you?
Laugh at yourself more. Yeah. Relax, have a sense of humor about things. But for sure, I know this. Those things that you are avoiding because they challenge you and scare you, follow them. Usually, with enough time, life will reveal itself, and those twists, those difficult twists, often reveal the blessings. Perspective helps a lot, and not all bad things are bad things.
Ntsako Mkhabela, thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And Lwandle, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
I'm welcome. Oh, she's too adorable. My job is on the line. She's going to be the next host next week. I trust you two have enjoyed this evening and have also loved the food for thought that I've been feasting on as well. Until next week, let's do it again. Good night. God bless.
There's lots of rules in society about how you should be as a girl, how you should be as a woman, how you should be as a corporate person. And I think lots of people make rules for other people just to make themselves feel more comfortable. I think the truest and bravest form of living your life is to decide what rules you will live by, and where there are none, that you can accept to create your own. For as long as you're following what you're told you should be, what you're told is right, you're always having to live up to another person's expectations of what good will be. But if you live up to your own, and you try to say, I'm going to scare myself, I'm going to go where I am afraid to go, then life becomes all part of your choosing, your deciding, your making. So as a woman, especially as a black woman, I have to decide the world has a script for me. I choose not to read that script, and I write my own, and I live my own. Thank you, and good night.